recording for realsies now.
Uh-oh. So does that mean the show started?
It will be soon, yes.
Oh, howdy, y'all. I'm super pepped. Psyched. Hype, hype, hype.
Rah, rah, rah.
Bueller. Bueller.
Bueller. Bueller.
What's the use? This is a total Eeyore chapter.
Yes.
If for the people that are, our age or whatever that watched Winnie the Pooh. Oh, thanks for noticing.
Mm-hmm.
What's
Really
the
is.
use? No one cares.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my tail fell off.
Always. That poor dude. And I remember one of the coolest things was when I went to Appleton with my aunt, they have a Disney store in the mall there. And they had Eeyores with button-on tails, so you could actually take the tail off. It was great.
At least it wasn't a pin, because apparently that doesn't work too well, and ouch.
Ow.
I think it was a pin a tail on the donkey joke.
Ow.
And that's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Well, no wonder he was depressed all the time.
No, they're just pinning him all the time.
Right.
I mean, life is nothing but, consistent pain. You can't blame a dude for, oh, what's the use? Just gotta get pricked in the butt again.
Right? Ow.
Which and not in a good way.
Yeah, no.
Just for the record.
But yeah, welcome back.
Yeah.
We are doing the Will I Ever Be Good Enough book. Again, Carol McBride.
Yes.
Chapter
Continuing. Yes. And we're wondering, what's the use?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this chapter is... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it's about the self-sabotaging daughter. Last week we had the overachiever.
Yes.
So this is the flip side of that. Another sort of personality that can come from the narcissistic family.
Yep. It's another avenue that you could be trained into.
Mm-hmm. Programmed.
Yep. That's and either one of these aren't healthy, and they're two extremes of what a healthy person should be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you should know which battles to fight and which ones to, not. And so yeah, this is a good example of extreme reactions to life, your environment, and interpersonal relationships. So yay. And like I said in the last episode, I'm kind of a mixture of these things. Trying really, really hard, and then it doesn't work out, so I'm just like, So, and I know that there are a lot of people in our audience that go through the same things. Kind of a mixture of these two extremes.
Yeah, I think I had a little bit of this, but it was mostly one of my sisters that definitely fits this better than I would.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person, and plus too your experience with your relationship with your narcissist mother. There's different dynamics at play that can shape, the circumstance can shape how the person responds to it. So yeah, and it becomes a life pattern, and a life pattern that we're hoping to heal from and break. It's like, hey, what's the use? The self-sabotaging daughter. Starts with a quote from a book from The Peppered Moth. Chrissy too saw the advantages of the hard work escape route, but did not take it. There was a perverse, wicked, rebellious streak in Chrissy, which has led her to a kind of liberation. She was a shrewd little thing, and she had seen what was happening. What good did it do you to work so hard, to pass your exams, to go to university like a good girl? You ended up miserable, cooped up, trapped just the same. This is a quote from the character, I suppose, or the author, maybe? Margaret Drabble, Peppered Moth. And it goes on to say here, all daughters of narcissistic mothers, to some extent, give up along the way. For each one of us was but a child, not a seasoned warrior, when we had to begin to fight a battle after battle for our own identity. Not one of us has been able to fulfill our mother's expectations. Those of us who did not become overachievers to prove to our mothers wrong choose the polar opposite route and took our anger out on ourselves, unwittingly sabotaging our own efforts, feeling angry at mother for creating a no-win situation in which she will never approve of us. In effect, we say to mother, see, I'm proving I can't be who you want me to be.
Yeah. And
So,
yeah, one of my sisters definitely fits this. She had disciplinary problems in school, grade issues, even though she's smart. And like mom just gave up on her pretty early on and just kept doling out punishments that obviously weren't helping, they weren't fixing the matter.
yeah.
And when she found out that she had started smoking, um, mom decided to make her favorite breakfast and then sit her down at the table with a pack of Marlboro Reds and said, if you don't get up from this table until that pack is gone.
Eesh.
And she ended up vomiting so much, um, and it didn't work. So,
Imagine my surprise.
right.
That's the Hank Hill way of dealing with
Yeah.
smoking habits. Yeah, there's an episode where he did that, and he
Mm.
had quit smoking. So in that, he started smoking again, and him and Peggy got it. Anyway, it was a whole thing. Spoilers if you haven't seen it. It's an old show from the 90s. You've seen it. If you
Mm.
haven't, then it's because it's yeah. So but yeah, that's kind of I like how it says here in the quote, which her led to her kind of liberation. And I think that's kind of at the heart of what that those behaviors are, is saying, fuck you, mom. I can't
Mm.
please you anyway. So what's the use?
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, at some point you do come to the realization that what your mom is expecting of you is just something you cannot give. Uh, yeah, I came to that point as well. Like after my mom divorced my dad, and he was abusive. Da 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 da. Long story short, this was the third time that she left him, and I was kind of still at that whole, yeah, let's see how long this lasts,
Mm.
kind of thing. And we had moved in with my grandmother, and my aunt was there, and my mom just wasn't. She just was gone. And by that time, I had always just been, catering to her, like her every need. She was disabled. She couldn't stand. For a long time, she couldn't drive or walk or anything.
Oh wow.
And she had just started driving like the summer before that, and so for her to be gone, to drive off and go to like bars and go hang out with her friends all the time. I mean, I felt like all of my efforts meant nothing. So I started smoking and drinking and not giving a damn about my grades.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to that point to where I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do what I want, I guess.
Right.
There's no point. So it was also kind of a cry for help. It
Sure.
was I'm being neglected.
Mm-hmm.
this is a problem. Let me throw some red flags in here.
Mm-hmm.
And to which they were not only ignored for the longest time, but also encouraged.
Sure.
Like, my mom started buying me cigarettes.
Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
So, yep. I was 13, 14.
Wow.
I was 14 when she started buying my cigarettes for me.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
I
That
can't
was.
imagine, like, buying cigarettes for a 13-year-old.
Yeah, but it was what it was. She's like, well, you're just going to steal my cigarettes anyway. I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, you were honest.
She was right. I mean, where else was I going to get them?
Right.
You know? It's
Yeah.
not like I could go to the store. And, yeah, and she had quit smoking for a number of years, too. So, I was like, oh, just do what she does, I guess. Not care.
Mm-hmm.
So it says here, the self-saboteur is the high achiever's internal twin. Although they've taken different paths and created contrasting lifestyles, their internal landscapes and emotional issues are the same. Are you a self-saboteur? Some of the traits include 1. Giving up, 2. Numbing the pain with various addictions, smoking, drinking, weed. At least when I was a teenager, right?
Mm-hmm.
3. Staying stuck in self-destructive lifestyles. 4. Underachievement. I've definitely qualified for all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And still do. I still have some self-destructive patterns that I have to get over. But I have worked on some significant work.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the anger is a lot of my behavior. That's where it came from, a place of just complete rage.
Mm.
That, you know, somewhere deep down inside, I thought that I had a lot more value than I was being treated like I had. I was being neglected. I was being used. I was being manipulated. And somewhere, like I said, deep down inside, I knew this. And it made me so fucking mad that someone, the person who is supposed to love me and care for me the most in this world,
Mm-hmm.
did not. Didn't give a damn. So,
And like you
yeah.
said, like that's the person that we're always taught. Well, they knows best, and no one's gonna love you like your mom does. And that's why I think that particularly um, the relationship between a narcissistic mother and a daughter is so skewed, and a lot of girls will say, "Well, we're supposed to respect our mom," and I did for years say, I can't say anything bad because it's mom. And,
Yeah.
you can't kick your mother out of your life, and you can't argue with your mother, and, just shit like that. But, like,
Yeah.
it's so hard hitting when it's your mom.
Yeah, it is. It cuts deeper than any other wound, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to the people that, oh, you should always respect your mom. Yeah, well, not the mom that abandoned me, not the mom that bought me cigarettes at 14.
Mm-hmm.
No. No thanks. Not the bar hopping mom, the mom that left me at the house for a month with barely any food. No. No respect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to know that your life is valued,
Yes.
and you have to get the most important person that can come from is your mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially mom. especially mom.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's always this joke, the therapist joke. Well, it started with my mom. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's true. It's true,
Mm-hmm.
right? Most of our issues come from mom. I mean, not to bring up any bad blood with Wisconsin or anything, but I mean, look at Ed Gein, right?
Yep. Yep.
Definite mommy
Oh
issues.
God, yeah. Those are major mommy issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've had a few serial killers and just really weird stories come out of our state.
Yeah. Just like, oh God, what was his name?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes, Dahmer also had serious mommy issues,
Mm-hmm.
abandonment and neglect
Yeah.
issues.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
there's
actually, I
some.
watch someone on YouTube. Her name is Bailey Sarian, and she does a murder makeup and mystery Mondays where she does like a get ready with me, but she talks about serial killers. Last week was actually about a possession case. Somebody who was purported to be possessed by the devil came from Wisconsin, so you
Oh,
know. But but she will try and get the childhood uh, information about these serial killers, like what was their childhood like. And she's like, I don't want to like draw sympathy or be like, oh well, it's okay that they did this because they had a crappy childhood. She's like, but I do want to bring to light that these people did not have like really caring homes that they came from.
right. There's a huge difference between being an apologist and trying to actually comprehend and understand
Mm-hmm.
why a person behaves the way that they do. And I think a lot of people blur the lines with that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're just because they had a bad childhood, they get away with. No, bitch, they're in prison right now telling you about
Mm-hmm.
this. They're not getting away with it.
Right.
So
And yeah, it isn't an excuse, but there have been multiple times where I'm accused of being an apologist for things that I'm just like, no, like I'm just trying to point out how these situations come up. I'm not excusing
mhm,
it, and I'm not saying it's right, and I'm
right,
not saying let everybody get away with it, but
right.
we do have to acknowledge that these are not normal circumstances.
Indeed. And I don't know about y'all, but the first thing that pops in my mind whenever I'm watching a documentary on a serial killer is why? Why did they do this? What happened, in their life that led to these events?
Right.
So it's just an understanding of how evil functions in the world. It's
Mm-hmm.
not saying that evil's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely not. So, anyways, and these self-saboteur traits are definitely ones that can lead to a lot of problems in your life, especially the self-destructive and the addiction and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and the underachievement, of course, because you're not doing the things that you need to do to feel good about yourself, to take care of yourself, get you a
Right.
good job, get it, things that you need. And if you're just completely stuck in this pattern of self destruction, then that leads to places that you don't want to go, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But she gives some examples um, of self sabotaging daughters, and also asks the question why. It's like I do with the serial killers, why do these daughters become high achievers and some self-saboteurs? She says, I found that most times the high achievers had someone special in their lives, a grandmother, aunt, father, a close relative, who gave them positive messages to offset or confront the negative ones from their mothers. Many times, this special person was loving, empathic, and nurturing. The self saboteur often did not have someone like this to help or her, or if she did not have him or her long enough to make a difference. And I did have my granny in my life. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode.
Hmm.
Who was loving, and I had for a brief time my mom's boyfriend's sister was in my life, but they didn't like my granny died when I was 14.
Hmm.
Is the the ages are kind of adding up here, I imagine. Um, and she and the sister wasn't really around, but for like a month. So yeah, that's definitely something that I would highlight as a difference between the high achiever and the self saboteur.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. My sister, who kind of fits this persona, she had grandpa and grandma. She was really close to grandpa though, in particular, but he passed away when she was 4, and she wasn't
Uh,
very close to grandma. So, and she was also middle child. She was the third in the line of 4,
yeah,
and 8 years older than me, so we weren't really close. And she, I'm sure, felt ignored completely.
yeah,
And if she got into trouble, she got some attention,
yeah,
but it wasn't what she needed. And I'm just so glad now that she sees herself as worthy and has, given up drugs, alcohol, all of that, working at a great place. So,
that's good.
but it's
So
hard to
there's,
see them go through that.
yeah, it really is. And there's, not much you can do to help someone who self destructs other
Mm-hmm.
than just be there, and quite often, especially in the cases of like people who get into like theft or drugs, sometimes being there for them is saying, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, you cannot. I will not give you money. I will
Mm-hmm.
not, don't allow people to use you. But at the same time, it's so difficult to find that boundary that is
Right.
healthy when it comes to these things. But I'm glad that she is doing better and she is getting out of that pattern is one of
Mm-hmm.
the most difficult things to do. And I'm proud of those who do break the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. It's
Mm-hmm.
really tough.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine. But next, she asked, why self sabotage? The self saboteur's patterns and emotional problems are usually a survival response to our unhealthy upbringing. Rarely does any one of us make a conscious choice to be self destructive. If, however, a child lacks maternal support and nurturing, she will most likely have difficulty understanding and processing her feelings. If your
Yeah.
mother denied her own feelings, then she would not have allowed you to have any of your own either. Young children believe that mother is the true source and has all the answers. If a mother dislikes her child or thinks she's not good enough, the child believes she's unlikable and inadequate. If someone does not challenge this distortion and show the child that she is worthy and precious, she will internalize these negative beliefs and eventually decide that she cannot be different.
Yep. It's just like the vagina log tree, right? I still have these negative beliefs about myself, about anything that I do or say or think that um, is really distorted.
Mm-hmm.
I have people give me compliments, right? And I'm just like, okay, sure. And it's not good. It's self-destructive. And as I said before, mother is the pinnacle of your not really your reflection, but kind of the way you analyze and value yourself.
Right. I mean, those are your
Because,
parents are the first people, your parents, your family, whoever is around you as you're growing up, are the very first people to give you that worth.
right, they give you your sense of worth, and they also give you, as I said before, once again in a previous episode, how children learn is mirroring, mostly mirroring what the parents do, what they say, and some of the thoughts that they have. So if your mom, just tells you all the time that you're not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to mirror that, especially a young child who hasn't quite hit that rebellious streak yet.
Right.
But one thing I will say about the self sabotager is usually the sabotage portion of the personality of someone who is raised by a narcissist does arise during that independence stage.
Mm-hmm.
So, teenage years, that's when it's going to come very, very evident that, that's what's going on.
Oh yeah, that's when it kind of started for my sister too. Was right around then.
Yeah. And it's really difficult to tell the difference if you don't know the family, if you're
Mm-hmm.
just talking to the kid, like as a school counselor or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
to tell the difference between just normal teenage angst and the person who is the kid who is suffering this kind of abuse, emotional, psychological abuse at home. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I was told, "Oh, you're just a teenager. Everyone hates their parents when they're a teenager. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Hush, hush."
Yeah.
And
Was it
that,
fine?
no, it wasn't
Uh,
fine. And that was more gaslighting. I mean, these people don't know it. And, probably if you look at the statistics, majority of the time they would be correct that, you're just a teenager. You're pouty and moody and hormonal, and all sorts of shit. Um, but I mean, that's ingrained in your head, and you doubt yourself, and you just keep on doubting yourself.
yeah. Yeah. And that self doubt just really runs deep. It really
Mm-hmm.
does. Oh. And when pain runs really, really deep like that, you know, what we want the majority of the time is to escape it,
Mm-hmm.
or to numb it somehow. So, and not dealing with your feelings definitely is a big part of it. And she talks about that. She says, left with buried and unprocessed feelings, the daughter begins to find defense mechanisms to cope with her unhappiness, sadness, and emptiness. She may become severely depressed or develop eating disorders, addiction to drugs or alcohol to attempt to self medicate the pain and inadequacy she feels, or other emotional disorders that disguise or divert attention from the origin of her misery. And like you were saying, that whole line about, oh, it's just normal teenage stuff, that kind of helps bury that even further,
Mm-hmm.
um, because this can't be what it is. It's got to be something wrong with me, but it can't be something inherently wrong with me either, because I can't deal with that. So, diverting attention away is definitely the main thing that you want to keep in mind here when we're talking about numbing the pain.
Mm-hmm.
This becomes a vicious cycle that keeps her numb and immobile. She maintains her inability to accomplish healthy things for herself, and in turn reinforces her feelings of worthlessness. She pushes people away with destructive behaviors, which leaves her lonely and empty. It's not fun. Um, I've done this a lot, especially in my 20s. As anger, just, anytime I would feel anything, it was nothing but anger. And I didn't like that. I didn't like who I was, because who I was just this angry person all the time. And when I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't, I was just depressed. So it's really, it's no way to live. It's not fun. And you add onto it, on top of it all is life is still going on. You're still having stress. You're still having, things that you have to do, changes in your life, whether it be high school or, college or getting married or having kids or trying to find a new job or having to move or COVID-19 or whatever. There's always going to be circumstances thrown at you. Meanwhile, feeling this emptiness, this loneliness, this abandonment, this anger, you know, it's it's not a way to live. It's not life. So,
Not at all.
this is a fun episode, y'all. I'll tell you.
Right? Yeah.
I have made like the last episode, I was in a much better mood, for the record, and two, it was a lot easier, I guess, because achieving is like, whew, and I could make a lot more jokes and just cut up. But this one is like, it really hits me hard because this is just so me.
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah.
Well, and like you said, it's no longer focusing solely on your accomplishments, which are still there, but this chapter deals with the opposite, the negative things that you do to try and get around this void that's there.
Yeah. I don't believe in the human soul, so I can't use the metaphor of hole in my soul, but it does feel like you have this just vacuum, just that sucks, drains the life right out of you, that you just walk around just trying to fill it, but it's just insatiable.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's gonna fill it. Nothing. Except for maybe breaking the pattern, breaking these ideas and these beliefs that you have about yourself that your abusive parent taught you.
Right.
And it's no, even. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's still really difficult to just say abusive parent.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
that's what it is. It's emotional, psychological abuse. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's still hard to this day for me as well. I made a post today, which is last Wednesday, if you're watching this. Hi, future me.
Hi, Monday. Monday, Snarky.
But
Oh, you muted, honey.
I muted myself. I didn't know I did that. I hit the enter key.
Oop.
At any rate, I had a post today because Dr. Ramani on YouTube here, and I'll link her channel in the description. She deals with narcissistic relationships, and she's a psychologist or psychiatrist, one of the two. She's a licensed
clinician.
Clinical psychologist, is it?
I think so. I'm not. I could look it up.
But she did a video on the term narcissistic
amnesia.
Thank you. Oh my god. I forget the word for forgetting things.
I know, right?
That's yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, narcissistic amnesia, and basically, in a nutshell, the person who is the narcissist will conveniently forget any bad thing that they've ever done and only remember the good things. And if you have proof and you bring it to them, they'll say, oh, that was so long ago, or they'll say things that just brush it off. And it hit home for me today watching that video, and I was hesitant to post on Facebook, but then, I just thought, well, the people who didn't know this side of her should know this side, and I shouldn't be afraid to talk about it now.
Yeah. I mean, it has been so long, so it shouldn't matter now, right? I mean,
Right?
using that logic. But yes, she is a clinical psychologist, expert, author. She graduated University of California, Los Angeles, and also Connecticut. She's very renowned for this topic, and definitely look into Dr. Ramani. But yeah, it's basically it's gaslighting. It's a very specific form of gaslighting, which this didn't happen. You're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to blah, 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 get attention or whatever. And I mean, in some instances, like with me and the smoking thing, it was to get attention, right? It was a red flag that I sent out just to see if mom even give a fuck. Mom didn't. So, regardless of that fucking argument, the point still stands. Do you care as a mother about your child enough to admit that maybe you made a mistake? Maybe you have been abusive. Maybe you were thinking of only yourself in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's not fucking crazy. you know? but yeah, it's a very specific thing that does occur. And I'll tell you what, that post, oh, it hit me. I'll tell you. It was a very good post.
Thank
I
you.
I suggest if y'all are on Twitter or Facebook, y'all check that out. It was hard hitting. It needed to be said. I'm glad he said it, because a lot of this gets swept under the rug. And when you're trying to heal from it, you have to talk about it. You can't bury it.
Yeah.
It's got to be put out in the light, and you got to assess it. And, just like with the, we were talking about the killers and things like that. These patterns aren't murder, right? They're self-destruction. They're not good. They're not healthy. But there's a reason why they're there.
Right.
And if you don't look into how those patterns emerged and deal with things like, the narcissistic amnesia and, other forms of gaslighting that are used to bury this even further, then you're never going to break that pattern, and you're just going to be stuck. So, it's difficult to face, but you got to.
Yeah.
And the people that, are in the vicinity that know have to understand that too. And they also have to be a part of that conversation to heal, because you can bet your bottom dollar that they have been through some shit too. So,
my gosh, my computer just went off twice. Shush. Shush, there's a third time. Okay, so we don't have UPS this episode, but we have computer.
The computer's coming in to save us. We need some more ding dong in this episode.
Right? We need lots more ding dong.
Not enough ding dong.
Giggity.
Oh. But yeah, definitely check out that post. That was, oof. There's no words really for me right now. I'm in a mind state, y'all. I just can't. I'm just putting that out there. So yeah, she gives more examples of this, and quite frankly, if I read any of these, I'm gonna cry.
Right.
And I really don't want to do that because I worked hard on this makeup.
Yeah,
Um,
right?
but but at the same time, I do suggest that anyone who hasn't picked up this book yet, do pick it up, do read this stuff. I'm sure Casey has some of the stories and stuff on the screen as well. Um, yeah, some of the behaviors and some of the stuff that these people went through, these women went through, was it's heartbreaking, and I can relate to a lot of it. Especially just the continuous self-doubt, just the continuous nagging, and every little thing you do, like it. And if you're on outside of this and you weren't raised with a narcissistic mother or father or whatever, it probably seems really strange to you that it's inconceivable, right, for someone to walk around in every questioning everything they do and say and even think. um but it occurs, and it's fucking crippling.
Mm-hmm.
So um it's kind of a little at a time, little at a time. It's okay to pat yourself on the back once in a while, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes, I guess.
I've heard
i've
rumors.
heard I've heard. Well, it does. It does. But even still, like, you couldn't get me to say, you know what, I love my raccoon painting. And I do. And I sincerely love it. My raccoon painting is so cute.
It's adorable.
Yes, it is. But, some time ago, even right after I painted it, was a few years ago, I wouldn't have said that. Progress.
Mm-hmm.
And even just acknowledging the progress is progress.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, if you can't dive into the deep end immediately, just don't worry about it. Dip your toe in, dip it in there, then your foot, wiggle it around, you know, and be like, you know what? I put my foot in the water. I'm cool.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine. It's fine to congratulate yourself, even on the small things.
Oh yeah. Especially in the small things.
Yep. So don't give me that, oh, it wasn't a big deal bull crap, because I know you're gonna do it, self-sabotagers. Fuck, words are hard. You're
Yeah.
gonna do that. You're gonna do that, but don't. Just stop yourself before you do it. Yes, I'm not awkward at all. um,
Speaking of doing it, we all do it. Um, don't feel alone if this chapter is striking some nerves. All daughters of narcissistic mothers have some self sabotaging behavior. Although high achievers and self saboteurs live different lifestyles, both types of daughters engage in the same self sabotaging behaviors. Remember, the internal issues of both daughters are the same. They just get played out differently in the external environment. One might be living at the country club and the other on welfare, but both often have issues with depression, anxiety, weight, addictions, health, stress, and relationship problems. Both have internalized the message that they are valued for what they do rather than for who they are, and have to resolve the negating internal voices.
yep. And it all comes back to, do you believe the phrase, I am okay as I am? I'm okay as I am. Do you believe that? If you have some doubts, then you're still struggling with the do rather than who you are.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, well, what have I done today? Uh, you've done enough. You have value just being as you are.
You're here. That's immense value.
Yes. Just keep your butt clean. That's what we
Wash your
talked about.
ass.
Wash your ass. Okay? Just don't stink up the place. Even if you stink up the place, you still have value. You're a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of how your mom treated you, you have value. It's just all there is fucking to it.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
And until you come to that realization that all you have to do is be to have value, then you're still going to struggle. I still struggle with this. Just existing.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
It's fucking hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's another thing, too, that does help is practicing mindfulness. And what mindfulness is being fully present in a moment, not trying to engage with the past or the future, but just being present. If you can sit there with yourself for even 30 seconds and be aware and feel the value of that moment just wash over you, it does make a difference to implement that. And of course, some of the other things that we mentioned in terms of belief, the beliefs about yourself, your core beliefs. Do you believe that you're worthless? You're not worthless.
Mm-hmm.
So don't believe that.
No.
You're valued just as you are.
Yes.
So heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to say that if you haven't looked into mindfulness, please do. It makes a huge difference, especially for those of us who suffer with anger and anxiety and things like that. To practice just being, because and the best times to do it is when you're the most stressed out, when you're in your car, when you're in a waiting room, when you're just really anxious for something to pass, like time. Uh, you're waiting on test results. You're, waiting for your significant other to get home, or something like that. That is the best time to practice. Just being present, no judgment, no what's going to happen, what has happened. Just be there. Just be there fully and engaged. Notice your breath, notice the feelings in your big toe, you know, just just notice things and don't apply any sort of especially negative value. If you want to add, something positive like, you know, it's really warm in here and I feel comforted. That's a good thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that you can actually enjoy in that moment of presence. And if you can, hang on to that as long as you can, as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And you do this enough, then it becomes a habit. And you start to notice, hey, I'm not feeling as pissed off when I'm waiting an hour in this lobby for the doctor to call me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a good way to utilize your time to care for yourself and to fucking enjoy life. And to me, that's the value of presence. It's being present, being alive. It's a gift.
Yes.
So, and it hasn't been given to you. You give it to yourself.
Yeah,
So,
and that's where it needs to come from.
Yes.
Because the internalized messages aren't going to stop until you correct the base, the foundation beliefs that are that are fueling them.
Yes. And that's another thing too. If you do have a belief, ask yourself, what does this feel like? What emotion am I feeling? Actually work through it. It's really difficult. This is a difficult episode, like totally, because this is where we're getting to the part where we actually have to do work through this. And even though it's something that we do, it really isn't. It's something that we just are.
Yeah.
All we have to do is notice it. That's all we have to do. And it can be effortless. It can be that way. But first you have to come to the realization. And the realization part is the tough part. So, yeah. There was one thing that I kind of implemented in my life, especially in my 20s, is trying to find someone to fill that space. Right? Trying to find a motherly type friend, I guess. That led to some problems. Some serious problems. I'm still friends with a couple of the people that were substitute moms, but yeah. it was something else. And she talks about this dynamic as well. Searching for substitute caregivers. While it is common to find the high achievers living in nice homes and working in well-paid careers or professions, it's just as common to find the self-saboteurs living in an aunt's basement, in prison, on welfare, collecting unemployment checks. When children are not allowed to be dependent on their mothers, they search for substitute caregivers as they get older. They attempt to get friends, relatives, lovers, partners, even society to take care of them, so they can finally feel cared for and secure. This may be a way to fool themselves into believing that because they're being cared for, they're finally being loved or cared about, yet they never really feel cared about. And see, this was kind of a thing. Like, I lost my home for a while, and I had to move in with my friend, and that was really tough because I had just gone through the surgery, and I actually did need to be cared for. But yeah, that wasn't within their ability. So it didn't turn out very good. And for a long time, I thought, you know what, I can't even have a friend because there's nobody in the world who will care about me, which is absolutely untrue.
Right. And it is a lot. Like you end up with these codependent traits, and it wasn't until I started acknowledging what I went through and taking steps on my own and in therapy to heal from that I realized that like one big thing I was doing with Greg was putting a lot of pressure on him to make me feel okay about me, and you can't do that. Like, I mean, you can, but it's not fair. And it's, if you don't value yourself enough, then why should other people value you? So you need to, again, it's changing that foundation and helping to realize that you're looking for this. And I think I still to this day put a lot of pressure on people, friends, family, for that validation.
Yeah, that's only natural, right? When you're raised in an environment that's totally devoid. I mean, you're just craving, right? And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be cared about, wanting to be cared for. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, relationships are about balance. They're about give and take. They're about giving as well as taking. And so if you can find that balance, that's healthy. That's what do they call it? Not equilibrium, homeostasis.
Homeostasis.
Yes, homeostasis. So, and you know, people have differing needs as well,
Hmm.
right? Like Maddie has needs, you know, that I try to fulfill. Maybe not as good as I should, but I don't know. I don't know. I try, and I feel like you and I are kind of in the same boat when it comes to that. You
Hmm.
know,
Oh yeah, I
I
constantly feel like I'm not doing enough
yeah,
to care for um, Greg. And there's also it's kind of hokey, but the whole love language concept, that something that solidifies what love is for him might not be the same as what I consider to be like a love language or like showing love.
right,
For him, it's, doing things like fixing, things around the house, or, like buying little gifts here and there that are, on one hand needed and or wanted. And for me, gifts really aren't like a huge I love you thing.
yeah,
namely,
yeah,
namely because growing up they had strings attached to almost
mm,
everything you got. I'll
right.
give you this, but in exchange, you need to do this for me because I gave you that.
Oh my God, same,
Hmm.
same. Oh my
So
God,
to me, gifts can almost have a negative effect. And I can sometimes sit there and go, okay, but what do you want for this
yeah,
now? What do I owe you? What am I in your debt for?
right, right. It's kind of like when people tell you, don't buy me anything for Christmas. What they mean is, don't guilt me into getting you
Hmm.
something because I can't afford it this year.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that's kind of a, you know, you have to, communication is key,
Hmm.
of course. In any relationship, you got to communicate. And I think I think Maddie and I have gotten to this point to where we can just kind of know, I guess. We've been around each other for so long. I imagine you and Greg kind of have this dynamic too, where you feel like, well, I'm comfortable, I know, you know, and we fail to communicate enough.
Hmm.
So that's something that we're kind of working on, you know. But yeah, you can definitely have two different ways of showing love in a relationship,
Hmm.
and it be a healthy and balanced way of working out. But it just depends. It depends on. Whoa, what just happened? Was that me? I think it was.
There's a dog barking out here.
Oh, it was the dog. Okay, because I moved the book and I thought maybe I pressed something.
Oh, yeah, no. I think your audio's still coming through, so.
Okay. Whew, goodness. But yeah, you could work through that. You can always work through that, and unless that person is an abusive asshole, then who wants to work on that?
Right.
Every relationship is different in some way. So yeah. She also goes on to say self sabotaging behavior is not a lack of talent or skill, it's an internal struggle within you. You clearly want to do something, but your internal messages say that you cannot or should not. For example, Jolie, I guess? Joelle.
Joelle, I think, yeah.
Joelle. Ugh.
It says Joelle drinks every day
Yeah,
above.
she drinks every day. So this is one of the examples of self-saboteurs and how they deal with things in an unhealthy way. Um, which I should probably just go ahead and read that. Um, so one, Peggy was just released from prison for drug possession. Sammy is on welfare, a single mother with little money and no car. Allie can pay for her apartment, but not food. She gets food stamps and, when starving, collects ketchup packages from fast food restaurants to make her own tomato soup with water. Ugh, God. Joanne, now 45, still lives in her parents' basement and cannot believe in herself enough to find a job. Joelle drinks every day. Shelley was just released from the hospital after her boyfriend broke her arm. Damn. Um, and for example, Joelle above, she knows that she needs to stay with AA and work on her drinking, but she gets discouraged and drinks anyway. Shelley knows that she needs to get out of her bad relationship, but she doesn't want to be alone. Joanne has a degree in elementary education and could get a job, but feels she won't be accepted, so doesn't want to take the time to fill out applications. Allie could get a job and have enough food to eat. She just feels too inadequate to try. Peggy knows that drugs are bad for her, but she has given up on herself because she feels that she would never be loved. Sammy was a straight A student and an honors graduate, but keeps getting involved with the wrong men and does not feel good enough about herself to move on. These women desperately want to change and feel discouraged and trapped. Their internal negative messages are controlling their lives and emotions. And see, what the flip side of this is, if it comes down to the internal message, then if that is the way to control your life, then maybe it's the message that needs to be worked on more than anything else. If instead of thinking, oh, I'm never going to amount to anything, maybe think, well, maybe if I get out there and try, I can amount to something.
Yeah.
Which would be a healthier way of dealing with it.
Definitely. Sorry. But I mean, the whole feeling inadequate and not good enough is across the board for every single example. And yes. It's just like, it's hard to change that message because you were given it for years. Yep. And it's hard to kind of reprogram yourself and say, no, I'm worth it. Like, you know, if I'm doing something that's damaging to myself, I'm worth not doing that. And I actually had not a doctor, but she's a diabetic specialist. And before I was on the pump, you have to, test your blood sugar so often per day. Yeah. And keep an eye on everything. So before meal, after meal, you're supposed to be testing at least 4 times a day. Ideally more than that. And wow. I couldn't do it. And she's like, well, why? And I'm like, I just don't feel like, that I'm worth taking care of. Like, so what's the point? And she's like, well, I don't get that. I don't understand that. What do you mean? And I'm like, well, it goes along with depression. And she seemed really confused about this. And I'm just like, yeah, it's a huge part. Just seeing yourself as worthy enough to have basic care, to take care of a condition that needs a lot of monitoring. And yeah. And then when I started seeing results from taking the right actions and taking care of myself, it became clear that, it's worth it. There are good things that will come if you do it. And to try and get over that hurdle of, I'm not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hardest step there. But the good thing that you experienced with that is you went ahead and you did what you had to do to take care of yourself. And you found it was worthwhile.
Yeah.
And that you are worth it. You definitely know what it's like to go through high or low blood sugar. It's not fun.
No, not at all.
And you do know that you're worth taking care of and avoiding that. So, I mean, that's really, it's like you said, the biggest step is just the first one, right? It's getting to where you're in the mind state enough to try. And that's a big part of it. If you are experiencing depression and things like that, definitely there is help out there.
Yeah.
There's therapy, there's medications. Talk to your doctor. Talk to talk to a professional, and see what you can do about that, because there are chemical reasons
Yes.
for that often.
Yeah, I know that I didn't start even getting a handle on wanting to take care of myself until after I'm on 2 medications for depression now. And it wasn't until those actually started working that I even felt uh,
Mm-hmm.
the energy to breathe. So,
Yeah.
don't
No.
dismiss medications. You're not weak if you don't take, or if you take medications, you're not weak. And, um, and if you don't need them, that's cool too. Like, but,
Yeah.
everyone's different. And yeah, definitely reach out for help.
Yeah. Everyone is different, and that's why it's important that you talk to your clinician, your doctor, to find out what is best for you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that could take years. Like I
Mm-hmm.
still have to up my medication um, once in a while and adjust things.
Mm-hmm.
There's side effects. There's all kinds of hurdles to get through, but you are worth it. And when your brain chemistry is just so out of whack that I was having trouble even finding the energy to get up and just brush my teeth.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
um, so it's a real problem, and it shouldn't be dismissed. And it's definitely something that needs to be dealt with. But once you get over that, the next step is definitely working on, your thinking patterns and your beliefs about yourself and the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that right there, with um, clinical help with medication, it's actually not even what I think. It's the data shows that it actually helps
Yeah.
people get over anxiety, PTSD, or at least cope with
Mm-hmm.
these things better at a better rate, and actually find fulfillment and happiness. Who knew in their life? Um, so yeah, CBT medication. Work on these things. It's definitely worth it. You're worth it. You're okay as you are, and you're worth it.
Yes.
So, um, one thing that doesn't help is when you're trying to, get better, and you have a mother who is really not helping things out. And she says, often the narcissistic mother will be aghast at the self-saboteur's adult life and decide to disown her. Daughters like this cause too much shame and humiliation for the narcissistic mother to handle. What does their child's behavior say about her? It's all about her. Always about her. What will the neighbors think? Fucking cares.
Right?
What will the relatives think? Of course, any daughter struggling with the above problem would benefit from her mother being there for her emotionally and helping her out, but narcissistic mothers tend to worry about only about how their daughter's behavior reflects on them, and are usually unable to help. Um, if you are a self saboteur, it is important to know that you do matter. There are many people who do care about you, and working in recovery will indeed change your life. Your pain and struggle are part of your journey, and you had to get to this difficult point to be able to see that you do have what it takes to design your own life and manage your feelings. Regardless of how your mother hurt you, you can heal. I will walk you through the recovery process step by step. Your job is to stay with it and take yourself seriously, which is the hard part because I paint
Mm.
vaginas. Uh,
Oh man.
but it is.
It is,
It
yeah.
it is something to take serious and take seriously, and you are valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say it enough. You're valuable. You matter enough to put forth the effort that it takes to feel better, even if it's just a little bit, because holy shit. It's indescribable, the years of agony that I personally spent dealing with the anger and the sorrow and the depression and the trauma that I experienced with my parents and their assorted regimes. Go from one narcissist regime to another after the divorce. It's wild. I've been told by several therapists that I should write a book, but anytime I try, I should. It would be worthwhile, and I probably could at some point.
Right, yeah, it's getting to be strong enough to talk about this in depth.
Yes.
And, like, I think the only reason I'm able to even get through this book again is, number one, because you're here, and you're amazing. And no. Number two, it's broken up. Like, yeah. we're not doing this every day.
Yeah, we can take a break. And yeah, it's... I can't thank you enough for pointing me in the direction of this book. And for being here to discuss it in depth. And just to have someone to relate to even is just amazing. And it's what's even more amazing is it's you. You're a sweetheart, you're funny, you're amazing to be around. And I missed you this past week.
I missed you too.
Okay, y'all. So I had ear infection. No, I didn't have the
Rona.
The Rona. I didn't have the Rona. I had an ear infection because allergies and the just drippy drops and stuff and clogs and whatnot. Anyway, it's a whole mess involving mucus that y'all probably don't want to hear about. But I just want to say mucus one more time. Mucus. But yeah, mucus. I was in a lot of pain. I felt like someone was beating me in the head with a bat all day. And I slept a lot. There were a few days there that were like, am I even really here? So I'm really sorry about last week. We didn't have a show last week. It's my fault. All my fault.
It's okay.
But hopefully we're getting back into the swing of this. And yeah, thank y'all for being here too. Definitely.
Yes, thank you.
It's quite a journey that we walk here, and anyone who walks beside us, we feel for you. We feel you.
Oh God, yeah. Oh. It's always such like a downer to hear similar stories, and then to also feel like welcome or like a kinship with other people who have gone through this. So it's like bittersweet when you find out that somebody else has gone through what you went through.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling. It's so bizarre. It's like, oh, thank fuck somebody understands, but oh shit, you too?
Right.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It just, and a lot of the time that I spent struggling, I just thought, I hope nobody goes through this, really. And I'm glad I don't have siblings. It was kind of a comforting thought that I had. At the same time, wanting siblings, so I could have somebody there that to relate to me in some way, that understood. So it's really strange. It's like you said, bittersweet. But yeah, definitely hanging in with hashtag. I love that line. It's perfect.
Oh, well, thanks.
Absolutely perfect. Mwah.
I thought of it a while back. I was like, you know what? That sounds encouraging.
It does.
I want to leave people encouraged.
Yes, definitely. But
yeah, next week, chapter 8, the romantic fallout, trying to win at love where I failed with mom. And I'm sure every single one of us who's been through this has also been through the relationship issues that come from this. Not just with your family, but with loved ones, significant others, work.
Yeah. And I may or may not burst into song. What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me.
May or may not happen. No spoilers.
Right? But yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, I didn't have you chill yourself at the beginning. Wait, did we do an intro?
We just, hey, we're starting the video. Cool. Right? It's fine.
Oh man.
I mean, if people don't know why we're here by this,
that is
video,
true. Like, they have no idea who we are.
Like, what are y'all doing? Go back to episode 1. Like, you need some continuity. You need some context to get to feel where we're coming from. Okay? Yes. Okay. So, show myself. I'm Missus Snarky. I sort of have a channel. I think it feels abandoned. Poor channel. Poor channel. Anyway, buy my vagina art. And eventually I'll make some videos. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Mainly on Twitter. I hate Facebook. That's where my conservative family members are.
Oh,
but yeah, on my channel I talk about philosophy and psychology and, you know, things that I find interesting, politics. So subscribe if you want it. It's cool if you don't, but pretty sure a lot of you already are.
Yeah, I would be willing to bet almost everyone is.
Yeah,
but
cool.
If you're not, links are in the, what is it called? Doobly-doo?
Doobly-doo, yeah.
Doobly-doo.
The doohickey.
Yes,
down yonder.
But thank you for being here with us for another chapter getting through this. And not as many bloopers this week, but there's still some, so.
Yay! Bloop, bloop.
But yeah, so remember, life can be shit. So let's get through it together and keep hanging in there with hashtag and Missus Snarky.
Yay! Hanging in there.
Bye.
Bye.
Say something funny.
Ha ha ha! This is funny.
I just noticed I had to cut like almost all of my laughs last time because they were so loud that they peaked.
Oh. Hate it when that happens. I do that a lot. And
it happens for me too.
It's irritating when you're editing and you hear that and you're, oh shit.
Right?
Is this what happens when I go live? Oh no. Those poor people's ears.
Right? So I have to put the record back on again because Snarky brought up raw chicken.
Raw chicken?
And sticking it on places on your body. And there was this post of a guy, and he was on and I have this switched. And I moved it. There I am. But there's this guy, and he's like, so I was cooking dinner, and I, like, didn't have my pants on, and, like, some raw chicken fell off the counter and hit my dick on the way down, and now it's red, and it kind of hurts. And someone just comments, you fucked the chicken, didn't you?
Oh my god!
So, someone else is like, yeah, he definitely fucked the chicken.
Oh my god! Why?
I don't know.
I tripped and fell on it.
Yeah, it just, happened to fall on it in that brief, like, millisecond that it was in contact with the skin. Just fucked shit up.
Yeah, I don't think that's how that works.
No, and if that happens, wouldn't you like just wash yourself off right away? Like,
Yeah, you wash it off. If it's red, he doing something more than dropping
oh yeah,
chicken in it.
he was fucking raw chicken.
Look, look, you just need to put some cold water on it, take a cold shower, and stay the fuck away from the chicken. Any kind of fowl.
I don't, I don't have a dick. I'm not an owner of one, but it just seems weird to me that, and these stories are like numerous of guys putting their dicks where they really shouldn't put them.
See, what
And I'm
happened
just
was I was
like-
climbing a mountain and I fell right into this sheep, and now my dick's red.
Right? What? I don't know. I fell into it.
That does not happen in Scotland ever.
No, never.
Never. That would be bad. Our after shows are lit, y'all.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh. Anywho.
Oh. Yeah. That